The Watergate scandal started on June 17, 1972, when 5 men were caught and arrested while trying to bug and steal documents from the Democratic National Committee's headquarters at Watergate, a hotel and office building in Washington, D.C. At a press conference on June 22, President Nixon denied that the White House was involved in the incident. Soon after, it was found that a $25,000 check intended for Nixon's 1972 re-election campaign was deposited in the bank account of one of the Watergate burglars. The Watergate break-in trial opened on January 8, 1973. On January 30th, former FBI agent G. Gordon Libby and former CIA employee James McCord were found guilty of conspiracy, burglary, and bugging DNC headquarters. E. Howard Hunt, a former CIA operative, and 4 others involved ended their trials by pleading guilty. After the trials, the White House officially announced that Nixon had no part or previous knowledge of the Watergate affair. On April 30th, White House officials began to resign as the scandal picked up and grew. On May 17, 1973, the Senate Select Committee on Presidential Campaign Activities opened hearings into the Watergate incident. The hearings were nationally televised. Nixon refused to allow the committee access to presidential files, nor would he appear to testify to the committee. On July 16, 1973, the Senate committee was informed that there was a White House taping system. When they asked for the tapes, Nixon would not comply. Because Nixon would not comply, the Senate committee filed suit against him. In what became known as the Saturday Night Massacre, President Nixon fired Special Prosecutor Archibald Cox and accepted the resignations of the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General. 3 days after the Saturday Night Massacre, President Nixon agreed to hand over the tapes on October 23, 1973. On November 21, 1973, the Senate Select Committee announced that there was an 18.5-minute gap on one of the tapes. House Secretary Rosemary Woods claimed to have accidentally erased the material. The House of Representatives authorized an investigation to decide whether grounds existed for impeachment of President Nixon. President Nixon released 64 of the tapes to the special prosecutor on April 30, 1974. That day, the White House released 1,200 pages of transcripts that corresponded with the tapes. In July of 1974, the House Judiciary Committee charged the president with obstruction of investigation of Watergate break-in, misuse of power, violation of his oath of office, and failure to comply with the House requests. Nixon decided to resign on August 9th after his speech on public TV.
I have never been a quitter. To leave office before my term is completed is abhorrent to every instinct in my body.
1 month later, the new president, Gerald Ford, made the executive decision to pardon Nixon. This whole scandal was an eye-opener for American citizens, in part to how corrupt our American government was. Congress began devising a plan to filter the election process. Many politicians running for office were more open about their financial activities and background. Overall, the scandal positively changed the political process for those running for office.